Hey, it's Hugh Hewitt, and when I want to know what's going on with the Cavs, the Browns, and the Tribe, I tune into Sports Fix.
Oppan Gangnam Style.
Welcome back to the Sports Mix Live. Yeah, we do it Gangnam style. We do it all kinds of style, baby. On the line, our special guest, Brown's great. Without this man, there is no Dog Pound. Hanford Dixon.
Hey, big dog, y'all got it going on over there. I was sitting there watching y'all. Y'all got a good show, man. I've listened to your show a lot, man. I got to compliment you guys. You got a really good show going there.
It's time to get your fix. The Sports Fix.
Oppan Gangnam Style.
Sports Fix listeners, like us on Facebook today. Facebook.com/The Sports Fix.
Hey guys, J-Rocc here from the Sports Fix, and we always talking about using our platform to try to help the world and the society we live in, and everywhere I go and everywhere we go, bullying is one of the problems in today's society. There's nothing worse than any person, big or small, strong or weak, adult or child, feeling picked on, pushed around, vulnerable, and victimized at the hands of a bully. Change comes one person at a time, and my good friends at No Such Thing as a Bully are working on skills and techniques and ways that we can all change and make things better for everyone. Find out more at NoSuchThingAsABully.com.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Harry Buffalo. Catch every UFC pay-per-view live in full HD at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, just outside Great Northern Mall. Harry Buffalo. Join the herd.
Live in Ohio, it's time to get your fix. The Sports Fix.
That's right, off and running with another edition of the Sports Fix. Welcome in, everybody. J-Rocc with you here, and we are getting ready to do the thing just like the city of Cleveland getting ready to do the thing as they descend upon Quicken Loans Arena. We switch gears in the NBA Finals, and that can't happen any sooner, I guess, for the Cavaliers and fans everywhere as the Cavs go on the West Coast, fall down 0-2 to start the 2016 NBA Finals, and now the next starting block is here in Cleveland as the Cavaliers now look to defend their home court in the next segment of this series. Trust me, the phone lines have blown up. Social media, we've got a lot of your opinions, and we've got a lot to talk about. Can the Cavaliers defend the land, as they've been saying for the last few days? Can they do what Golden State did? As they say all the time, it's not a series in a playoffs, regardless of the sport, until the road teams won a game on either side. So that hasn't happened yet. If Golden State wants to win here, that's going to have to happen for them. If the Cavaliers want to win, period, they've now guaranteed that has to happen for them as well. We'll find out. The Cavaliers need to win 4 of the next 5 games against a team that beat them by a record-setting number of points in the first 2 games of the NBA Finals. It was a bad start, and it got worse in Game 2. What happens in Game 3 and 4? We're going to talk about that. I've got a lot of your opinions. Dan Wismar from Everybody Hates Cleveland, he's in the house today just about 25 minutes from now. We're going to talk about just that. And speaking of Quicken Loans Arena, one team playing down there in the finals is fighting for their playoff lives as they come back home. Another team is fighting for a championship as the Lake Erie Monsters came back home. Game 3 of the AHL Calder Cup Finals. They have also taken care of their business and now are on the verge of not just a win, but a sweep and a championship in the AHL, as nearly 13,000 fans filled up the queue the other day for the Monsters to take care of business in overtime and perhaps set the stage this weekend for them to wrap it up at home in front of what I think is just an incredible fan base. I've been arguing with people left and right about this, and of course you guys know me. I've been a big Monsters fan for years and years and years. Just love that organization, the way they've put down roots here in the community and really built this fan base, and how the fan base has embraced them. And I say, man, I know people will get into the minor league hockey and all of that. I understand to an extent here that is the major league alternative, and it's so close to the level of hockey that I get, but I still understand people's arguments. But where I counter with that is, I mean, those guys averaged 9,000 fans a game here. I mean, It was an amazing. The AHL in general set an attendance record here this season, as last night's game put it over the top. But the Monsters themselves get such support. Think about that, $9,000 a game, and they play. With preseason, I believe they play 36, 40 games, something like that here at the Q. Do the math. I mean, that's 340, 50, 60,000 fans. There were summers that the Indians didn't get that many. I'm kidding, but it felt like it anyways. I'm sure in the 70s there that maybe they didn't even get 400,000 at the gate for the season. So I think it's a testament, all jokes aside, to the Monsters and the support they get here. I think it's awesome, and I think it'd be great if they could take care of business and finish things off at the Q. But that you got that going on. You've got the Cavaliers here in the midst of the NBA Finals. The story to be told. I'm going to get to you guys' phone calls. We've got all your takes on social media. As I said, Dan Wismar is with us. So much to get into, guys. Let's rock and roll and do the thing. Today, the Sports Fix off and running. Welcome in, my friends. I am your host, the Big Daddy on the microphone, J-Rocc, Jerry Myers, with you here each and every time. I am blessed enough to do the thing across the Sports Fix Radio Network. Maybe that means you're enjoying us live on TuneIn, TuneIn's radio app worldwide, Spreaker, Mixler, their respective digital and mobile applications, all great places to listen to the show live and in living color, Daddy, across the network. Perhaps you're listening to the show right on the home base, thesportsfix.net, your one-stop shop for all things Cleveland sports, Sports Fix, media, archives, all of our social media widgets right there on the page, plus banners to support the great sponsors who help bring the Sports Fix to you. Make sure you bookmark it. You can catch the live feed there. If any of the normal channels are down, you can always go right to the trusty home base, thesportsfix.net. Look at it, lock it in, bookmark it today, and make sure you check it out, guys, as well. Welcome into everybody listening Saturday mornings on 96.7 WFSN in Union City, Pennsylvania. You guys enjoying the show, and many of you have come to see me the last few times I've wrestled in that area and said, hey, man, I just started listening to the show. I think that's fantastic. I was out last week at the Erie Wild Rib Cook-Off in downtown Erie. I had 3 shows last Saturday, and several of you came up and said, hey, I heard your Cleveland sports show. And yeah, that's it. So I love that. And anytime you guys get a chance, come on out this Saturday. I'll be out there as well. It'll be great to see some of you. I'll be at the Saga Club in Erie, Pennsylvania. But a shout out to everybody listening live Saturday mornings on 96.7 WFSN FM in Union City, just outside of Erie, Pennsylvania. As well, shout out to all of you guys listening around the world on digital delay, and that is thousands in time zones all over the world. Places and sites like iHeartRadio, the world's largest internet radio provider, on iTunes, and Stitcher Radio, SoundCloud, all of the various places, sites, and all the different ways that you download, feed, subscribe, do the thing, and get your fix. Thank you so much, as I say each and every time, for doing just that. Without you, there is no Sports Fix. Be a part of the show. Do the thing across social media. Pick up the phones. Blow it up. We're going to take calls. I've got about 15 minutes here before we've got to get to the news. Get Dan Wismar in on the show. 216-539-7535 is the number to call. 216-539-7535. If you're one of those thousands listening on digital delay, have no fear. You can call and leave your take anytime, and we'll play it. Much like I've got a couple here to kick off the show today, you can leave your take on the hotline at any point in time. 216-539-7535. You want instant feedback? Social media is the way to do it, Daddy. Facebook, Twitter, email, facebook.com/thesportsfix. Twitter at thesportsfix, CLE, email thesportsfix@AOL.com. Again, facebook.com/thesportsfix, Twitter at thesportsfix, CLE, all one word. Email us, thesportsfix@AOL.com. Across the social media this morning, I posted the question, what do you think happens with the NBA Finals? Do the Cavs have an epic comeback inside of them that starts back at the Q, or is Golden State going to take care of business and finish off their second consecutive championship season? And I've got a lot of different answers I'm going to get into. But before I get into, before I really get into anything else, I think I want to hand the phone lines over to you guys. I'm going to give you guys the opportunity to start things off here on the show. We're getting ready to talk some Cavaliers hoops in just a lot to get into, too, as we'll do in a moment. But I want to give you the chance to start things off. Caller, Kick us off first on the Sports Fix.
J-Rocc, it's your boy, Ronnie Rotten. Well, let's say it's been a little bit of a rough first two games of the finals, but pretty sick of all the people in Cleveland giving up faith and hope. It's pretty sickening. Disgusts me, honestly. I'm disappointed in a lot of you Cleveland fans. You're not, don't even call yourself fans. You're horrible. Why don't you go join the Golden State bandwagon? Because the second we go down 0-2, you guys want to cry and complain that we're not going to be able to do it and we're not going to be able to pull it off. And the amount of frustration I have. If you knew anything about NBA history, you would go back and look at the Chicago Bulls who were down 0-2. You came back and won. If you don't think that this team is good enough to do that, if we get our heads straight and our stuff together, you are insane and out of your mind. And again, please go be a Golden State fan. We don't want you here in Cleveland at all. We don't want you being a fake fan. We don't need fake fans. We've been through enough stuff where we have real fans here that stay through the trials and tribulations of Cleveland. Now, with that being said, I will be down there at the game tonight. I'm going to be going crazy. I probably won't have a voice tomorrow because I want us to pull this off. We have to pull off these next two at home. We have to steal one on the road. And I don't want it to come to a Game 7, but unfortunately, if it does, I still think we could take one at Golden State in the Game 7. This all comes down to LeBron James, unfortunately. Kevin Love has gone missing. Kyrie Irving's defense is, I don't know if it's in jail or where it's at, but it is stuck somewhere that is not in the finals. I don't understand what the coach is doing. I don't understand what Lou is doing. It makes no sense to me. We're not even putting a good rotation in. So I really hope tonight that they can pull this together, J-Rocc, and pull up this win. If we don't get this win, it's not looking too good. But I have faith in us. And I know we're going to get this win tonight. And I know we're going to come back with those chumps at Golden State's punk little asses. Not worried about them. Speaking of whooping ass, we lost a good person this weekend, Kimbo Slice. We also lost a legend, Muhammad Ali. And it's making me sick to my stomach seeing people post these memes and these BS statuses on Facebook and Twitter saying a mega fight in heaven is going to happen this weekend. What are you smoking? Because I need some of it. Because it obviously is really good stuff that you are out of your mind to compare Muhammad Ali to Kimbo Slice. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Let's set the record straight. Muhammad Ali. You know what? I'm going to say I'm not a fan of the huge guy. I don't like what he did. I don't like the fact he didn't serve the country, but I also respect the fact that he wanted to kill innocent people and do that. He did his time with the man for 2 years. He did what he had to do. I understand that. I'm not going to take his talents away from him and say he was one of the best fighters in the world, if not the best. I respect him for what he did for his sport. But please, people, do not try to put Kimbo Slice in the same boat or even the same country as Muhammad Ali when it comes to the fighting game. Kimbo Slice was a backyard brawler who was a bouncer for a porn star website, who those guys had money and uploaded those videos online to get him popular to try to make people pay to do backyard fighting. Basically, human cockfighting. That's how Kimbo Slice got popular. And then the second he stepped into any realm of an MMA show, a cage, a ring that was an MMA, anything he stepped into, he got owned on. And if it wasn't owned, it was going to be trying to get bought off. I mean, the guy with the pink hair gave him a straight left, I think, when they fought. He dropped him. Didn't want to drop him like it was nothing. So it sucks that Kimbo Slice passed. I heard that he was a great guy. I heard he was awesome to his fans. But people, please, for the love of God, don't try to compare Kimbo Slice to Ali like I've been seeing online. You're just making yourself look real ignorant and real dumb. You know what you're making yourself look like? A real Golden State fan. All right, Sports Fix, let's go Cavs tonight. You guys have a great day. Keep it going, J-Rocc.
All right, my man. What a call to kick off. There's a lot in that one, so that's why I wanted to go ahead and start things off. And thanks to thank you for the phone call, and to you guys that want to keep it coming in. 216-539-7535. We are live. 216-539-7535. And I got to rewind because he started right where I was going to start anyway, before the Cavaliers, before we get into anything else in the sports world, and that is not Kimbo Slice, although he's got a hell of a point there, and I'm 100% behind him as far as that. I saw some of those people comparing the passing of the two this week myself. Big difference. But Kimbo Slice from the mixed martial arts world passes away at the age of 42. A much bigger story, the greatest of all time, in my opinion, in many people's opinion, inside the squared circle of boxing. Muhammad Ali, a transcendent character and personality within his sport, outside of his sport, controversial, and then in the second half of his life known for being an inspirational figure throughout many, many parts of the world. Inside the ring, I think very easily considered one of the greatest of all time, not just within his particular genre, but when you expand out with the greats of the greats and you start putting all of them out there. Cassius Clay, who then became Muhammad Ali. Mama called him Clay. I'm going to call him Clay. It was one of my favorite scenes from Coming to America, the barbershop scene where they're arguing boxing. But Muhammad Ali, one of the greatest of all time, passes away. And one thing that I noticed that they talked about that I said, man, I'll tell you what, it really does kind of say something is at the very end when they had him in the hospice care and he was passing away after all of his body activities had stopped functioning, after he had reached the point where he should have clinically passed away, his heart continued to beat for 30 more minutes, which is just the sign of, I guess, just an internal will to fight that never dies. And it sounds all cliche, but that's almost physical proof of that right there. And Muhammad Ali, also known in the second half of his life for having become a figure for Parkinson's as he developed the brain injuries due to his boxing career, which is now really come to light with all of the things that we know now with concussions and sports injuries and head injuries and all of that. Lot of things there, and Muhammad Ali passes away this week. He is definitely one of the greats and one of the icons, and that's one that you put it. If you're building the Mount Rushmore of all-time sports figures, I would think Muhammad Ali at least has a place in the argument for getting one of the main heads on that mountain, especially when you look and combine all of the facets of his life, including the controversy when he was the champion and didn't want to go into the service. Said, I ain't got no problem. Them Viet Cong ain't did nothing to me. And he did his time in prison and all of that. There's people that like and dislike that. And I guess that's kind of one of the places that I have issues. But then at the same time, I can totally understand the argument of being a man that's, found something that he believed in. And whether you believe in it or not, he believed in it enough to stick with it. That being said, the patriotic side of me obviously has issues with his refusal to go into the service for the country that allowed him to become a millionaire and a cultural icon. Either way, that is far removed in the past. Muhammad Ali passes away this week. And as I mentioned, and as he mentioned in the call, Kimbo Slice as well, at the age of 42, passes away, found out that he needed a heart transplant. And to think he was just in the ring back in February and was scheduled for a fight in a couple of weeks, actually. But I was talking to some guys last night. That fight that Kimbo had with Dada that was on TV, we watched it. Both of those guys were in such bad physical cardiovascular shape that Dada said he died 3 times in the emergency room. His kidney shut down. I mean, these guys were not. It was not a great exhibition of human athleticism, that's for sure. And Kimbo Slice became a legend for what he had done on the. He was really an early YouTube sensation for one of the first kind of viral things that got out there for his street fights, and that's pretty much. Human cockfighting was a great way to put it, in my opinion. But anyways, that was where he became something. And he was much more of a freak show, something that became like watching a car crash a little bit. People became interested in this legend, this urban legend. And then he ended up getting a few fights at the big time level because he was able to attract some eyes to the television. But to compare Muhammad Ali and Kimbo Slice, other than the fact that they both at one point put gloves on their hands, I don't know how in the world you could do that. All right, guys, getting back into things here, and trust me, we're going to talk a ton of Cavaliers 10 minutes from now. Dan Wismar from Everybody Hates Cleveland. We're going to dive into this 0-2 start to the series for the Cavaliers, a record-setting deficit, but I wanted to get back real quick to the Lake Erie Monsters as they sit with a 3-0 lead in their series. Forsberg in Game 3 once again got the victory. He's continued to knock it out of the park as he's come in there at the goal. And they go into overtime the other day. My buddy Joe Sweeney was at the game taking some pictures. A lot of people I know, as Monsters fever has kind of struck the area now, but the Monsters got that overtime victory against Hershey, and they've now won 8 in a row here in the playoffs, all of their postseason games, and it was just really exciting to see the crowd down there, see the city getting behind the Monsters here, and the support again has always been so strong. But the Monsters have a chance now to celebrate at the Q. And I'll tell you what, that's the perfect segue. I'm going to go back to the phone lines one more time because I want to get in at least one more take from you guys before we hit the break, and I'm going to do just that. Caller, you're next up on the Sports Fix, and I think we're talking feeling like a monster.
J-Rocc, Big Daddy, is Charles. Everybody talking Cavs and a couple people talking Indians. I'm talking Monsters, the only team that has a legitimate shot right now at completely sweeping and winning a championship. Now, I'm not saying anything bad about the Cavs, but hey, let's face it, they look like butt in the first 2 games. They got a chance to turn it around, but hey, we'll see. Monsters got a chance to win it and sweep at home and win that Calder Cup and bring that championship home to Cleveland. For those people that don't say, well, it doesn't count, it's not a big tree, blah, 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 that's fine. But you know what? I bet the 12,935 fans that were in attendance last game and the people that watched at home will completely disagree with that, myself included. And if you haven't been watching this series, you have been missing out on some spectacular hockey. Fast, physical, everything you want in an NHL game, but it's the AHL. The future is absolutely bright for these Blue Jackets and these Monsters. So let's go, baby. Let's go. Bring that Calder Cup home, baby. I am pumped for Saturday. Pumped. So let's go, Monsters and Indians. And hey, J-Rocc, you got to play it, man. You got to play I Feel Like a Monster. Just one time for me. All right, guys, everybody take it easy. We'll see you.
There you go, Charles. A little Feel Like a Monster in the background as we get winding down the openings. I mean, I have a ton to get into. Great phone calls. So many more to do. We're going to reopen the phone lines at the 1 o'clock hour and the back end of the show when Dan Wismar leaves us, because we have got so much more that we have not even touched upon. We're going to talk some Cavs here in just a little bit. The Indians, on the back of a 6-game winning streak to kick off the month of June, steamrolled the Kansas City Royals and swept their way into first place, even though they stumbled in Seattle late night Tribe Live last night. They rode that winning streak up into first place in the Central. We're going to talk about the red-hot Cleveland Indians, the Cavaliers, and the Golden State Warriors with Dan Wismar from Everybody Hates Cleveland when we come back next. And we've got more opportunities for you to get in on the phones. Don't worry. But for now, you can keep your calls coming in. 216-539-7535. Record your take on the hotline. We're going to take a break, come back with some news, and then Dan the Man Wismar from Everybody Hates Cleveland joins us. We're going to pick it up a notch like Emerald. Boom! The Sports Fix just got rolling, baby. Let's do the thing. When we come back after the news, we'll be right back here on The Fix.
Why won't somebody come and save me from this? Make it in. I feel it deep within. It's just beneath the skin. I must confess that I feel like a monster. I hate what I've become. The nightmare's just begun. I must confess that I feel like a monster. I feel it deep within. It's just beneath the skin. I must confess that I feel like a monster. I feel like a monster. I feel like a monster. It's hot in
I threw 3 touchdown passes in the championship game.
I went 12 under par.
I hit the big home run.
And now you can.
And now you can.
And now you can.
With Toucan.
Athletes from all walks of life are enjoying the rarest benefits from Toucan Tricks. Toucan Tricks is the revolutionary new herbal, who the hell am I kidding? Steroid for one of nature's most beautiful creatures, the toucan. Scientists have discovered a rare gene in the toucan beak that grows muscle rapidly without any detection from all major drug screening. But the benefits of Toucan Tricks don't stop there. Just take a listen to Jamal from Indiana.
Yeah, I needed an extra boost so I could dunk a basketball spectacularly. So I heard about Toucan Tricks, and now not only can I dunk a basketball spectacularly, but my knees are made out of a springy elastic polymer.
And Jackson from San Jose.
I was always the wimpy guy who got picked on down at the local gym. So I started taking Toucan Tricks. And not only am I buff and ripped, but I grew a third arm. Nobody's gonna with me now.
And Brian from Scottsdale. I'm turning into a toucan. Caw! Caw! So win at life today. Call 1-800-555-9723 and get your supply of Toucan Tricks because now you can with Toucan.
Warning, Toucan Tricks may turn you into a toucan.
Hey guys, before we go to the break, I want to talk to you a little bit again about our good friends at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, the UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championships, some of the hottest fights in the world today. Each and every one of their huge events, Harry Buffalo is one of the few places in Northeast Ohio you can go there and watch each and every UFC fight at the Harry Buffalo. And let me tell you, I've been there. The people are out the door. They are to the rafters. It is one of the craziest environments for some UFC fights. Wing Mondays, they've got great deals on wings and drinks, and every day of the week there's a different special, a different deal. And don't forget the Bison Burger, the unbelievable. It is the combination of a fantastic burger and eating healthy combined into one unbelievable sandwich. You have got to get a Bison Burger while you're there. So whatever you're looking for, whatever day of the week, Monday through Friday, Saturday, Sundays, there's something for you at the Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, just outside Great Northern Mall. Check them out today. Harry Buffalo, join the herd.
No football? No problem at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted. From their awesome Wing Mondays to every single Cavaliers and Buckeye Hoops games in full HD.
Kyrie splits the D, goes inside, teardrops it home right down Euclid.
That's way up in there for two.
The excitement never stops. Every day of the week brings a different set of food and amazing drink specials.
And now,
fans, Harry Buffalo North Olmsted is the home for every UFC pay-per-view live on the big screens.
Let's get it all!
And let's not forget their mouth-watering trademark, the Bison Burger.
They sure are good.
Nobody does bison like Harry Buffalo. The perfect combination of healthy and delicious.
Hey there, eat up, y'all. You's as good church-going folk. Y'all deserve a little treat.
What are you waiting for? Get to Harry Buffalo, just outside Great Northern Mall today. Harry Buffalo. Join the herd.
Sports Fix listeners, do you tweet? So do we. So tweet with us 24/7 at the Sports Fix CLE. Fantasy sports lovers, you put so much time, hard work, and effort into playing week to week that it quickly stops being a fantasy and starts getting real. Real time spent making real decisions, creating real victory.
I'm the greatest man in the world!
And when the smoke clears, you want to show off those victories with a real prize.
I mean, a really real prize.
Nobody does that like Fantasy Jocks. The crew over at Fantasy Jocks have beautiful, high-quality, and heavy-duty championship belts, rings, trophies, and so much more for all your fantasy sports needs.
The trophy's 12 feet high, and it is glorious!
Football, baseball, hoops, you name it, they have it. Plus, they have awesome draft kits and party supplies to make all your preseason activities the envy of everyone. If your league needs a ring, belt, or trophy, or you want to upgrade what you already have, there's literally only one place to go. If you're going to be a fantasy jock, do it right.
It's mine, the most magnificent belt ever created, and it's mine.
With America's Fantasy Sports Superstore, fantasyjocks.com.
What's your fantasy?
News break.
Good morning, I'm Bob Picozzi. There were 40 years between their third and fourth NBA championships. If they can win 2 more games, there will be only 12 months between their fourth and fifth titles. Golden State, leading 2-0, visits Cleveland tonight in Game 3 of the NBA Finals, 9 o'clock Eastern Time on ABC and 8 Eastern on ESPN Radio. Between them, Steph Curry and Klay Thompson averaged 53 points per game in the Warriors' first 3 playoff series, but they're averaging only 27 in this series. Coach Steve Kerr does not seem fazed.
We just want to win. It doesn't matter who scores the points or who gets the credit. We do feel like the strength of our team is our depth. We're not overly reliant on one player, even even the MVP. So our depth has shown so far. Well, I'm sure we'll have different players continue to step up as the series goes on.
A decision on Cavaliers forward Kevin Love's availability for tonight's game will be made sometime today. He remains in the NBA's concussion protocol. San Francisco Giants catcher Buster Posey may sit out a third straight game tonight with an irritated nerve in his right thumb. The 2012 National League MVP is a .307 career hitter. He's hitting only .257 this season. Tiger Woods made it official. He will not play in next week's U.S. Open at Oakmont or in the Quicken Loans National the following week. He hasn't played since August and has undergone 2 back surgeries since. There's a day-long I Am Ali festival today in Louisville. It began with Mayor Greg Fisher releasing hundreds of butterflies into the air from the front steps of the Kentucky Center for the Arts. One of Muhammad Ali's colorful expressions was float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. There will be a memorial service for Ali Friday in Louisville.
When it comes to Cleveland sports, we go from
"You can't touch this"
to
"I can't watch this."
So listen to The Fix. It's easier on the eyes.
This is Josh Tomlin of the Cleveland Indians, and you're listening to The Sports Fix.
Welcome back to the Sports Fix, indeed. J-Rocc back with you here. Dan Wismar from Everybody Hates Cleveland getting ready to join me. You guys are with us live, and, you know, as I heard that in the news break there, just as you did, about the Muhammad Ali ceremony, I got to thinking, I said, man, if the same brain trust that put together 10-cent beer nights at Cleveland Municipal Stadium back in the day put that together, you got to figure they'd release the bees along with the butterflies. But anyways, as we get back into it, there was a lot of Golden State Warriors talking there. That's what they're talking about nationally, the Cavaliers. And you know what? I was thinking about it during the break. I was kind of all over the place in that opening segment of the show, a little bit here, a little bit there, trying to serve several masters. And many times they say when you are you're able to wear many hats but master none. And really, that kind of described the first 2 games of the NBA Finals for the Cavs. They were all over the place, not staying true to themselves. They were scatterbrained, and the results showed in a record-setting first 2 games to fall down point-wise. We'll see what happens. Let's see what Dan thinks. Let's see what you think. By the way, speaking of what you think, across social media, you guys have chimed in. Before I get Dan in, just wanted to go across just some of the dozens and dozens of comments coming in. Bulldoggin says, I'm sticking with my original pick, Cavs in 6. Paul Islam says Cavs in 6 as well. Zach says, no way, Golden State takes it in 6. Richard Morse said the Warriors sweep it and win once again at the Q. Jim Jones says Cavs in an epic 7-game series. The comeback begins at the Q. Don Annis said, I hope I'm wrong, but I see a Golden State Warriors sweep. And on it goes. The comments continue to come in. What say you? Facebook.com/TheSportsFix, Twitter @TheSportsFixCLE, or leave your take on the hotline, 216-539-7535. Speaking of the hotline, that's where Dan the Man Wismar is, and I want to get him in on this and start talking right off the bat about the Cavs and the Warriors. The Cavs took a couple of gut shots on the West Coast. Now, where do you stand as they come back home? Dan, how you doing?
Doing pretty good, J-Rocc. Good to be with you. It's been a tough week, tough weekend, and I don't know really what to think. You know, all of us Cleveland fans, Jerry, we're hopeful, but at the same time, our cynicism, our pessimism is well earned and well justified, and so no matter how optimistic we might be, we're always braced for disappointment. So I can't even say I was surprised at the showing. I don't think anybody predicted blowouts in this series. I think most people expected tight ball games and a hotly contested series all the way through. And I don't know. The Cavs have just they've disappointed. They played sort of half games. I thought in game 1 they were right there, right up until the the Delhi shot that sort of seemed to motivate the Warriors, and from there that was a 3-point game when Delhi hits the guy in the groin, and it went downhill from there right away. But game 2, you got to say it was mailed in. I don't really know what to say other than I'm revising my Cavs in 6 prediction only because I couched that in the sort of the assumption that we could grab one of the first 2 on the road, and not having done that, it's tough to stick with a Cavs prediction of any sort, let alone 1 in 6 games.
Absolutely. I hadn't really gotten much into it yet because I was waiting to start this conversation with you, but you look at the first 2 games of the series, and I have no problem with Golden State winning the first 2. I think when we talked last week, I said I could very well see each team hold court, and Golden State takes care of the first 2, and then the Cavaliers come home and do the same, and we've got a 3-game sprint to the championship. And I even said that this is the type of series where I saw one game be a blowout in each direction, and then there'd be a couple of close ones, and I thought there might even be an overtime game mixed in there. What I didn't expect is for the Cavs to get blown out and then get blown out worse in game 2 at a point where adjustments you would expect naturally to be made, whether you lose the game or not, but to lose the game in a worse manner. And I've got to say, I think you were more generous than I am, because at no point in games 1 or 2, to me, did the Cavs feel competitive. I don't care what the score on the scoreboard said, but from the opening tip of both games, the Warriors were back cutting their way to the hoop. I mean, it looked like a team, at times, the Cavs looked like a team that had never played organized defense. I had my jaw on the floor at how many wide open Warriors were cutting underneath the basket with no Cavalier in sight to defend them. I mean, forget the 3-point shooting, forget Curry and Thompson, who haven't even started playing basketball yet in this series, to be honest with you. And that is the scariest thing to me, is it looked like what you get when you have the classic disciplined team against the athletic, undisciplined team, and then you watch a team get picked apart and you go, wow. And that's honestly the way I felt watching the games. I mean, outside of individual guys, outside of, there's plenty of criticism to go around that we can get into for individual Cavs, but the team defensive effort was incredibly awful from the get-go. I mean, were you not amazed at how many wide open layups the Warriors were getting in the first 2 games?
Well, yeah, that too, and also the relatively easy low post entry passes. It seemed like it was sort of the strategy right out of the gate to kind of clear out, let one guy post low, and then sometimes from the 3-point line, you'd be getting a bounce pass, entry pass down into a low post, and let one of their bigger guys go one-on-one, or whether it's Thompson or one of the forwards, go one-on-one against a Love or a Thompson down low. But just the idea that they were kind of clearing out one side and then getting a bounce pass down into about a 6-foot range of the hoop. They did it repeatedly. And occasionally they'd have, of course, the backdoor cutter and get a guy wide open for a dunk. But even when they weren't getting open looks, they were getting that entry pass down so low and then taking their chances one-on-one down low. And that seemed that they really just sort of, figured that the Cavs would be looking to stop, the Slash brothers are out high, and said, well, hey, we're gonna take it down deep, and they did it successfully time after time.
And the Cavs, even if that's the case, the Cavs also on the counter side haven't successfully defended the 3-point line either, because they're constantly behind on the swings with the passes and the switches. I mean, I think that was one of the things that stuck out the most. I mean, there's a lot to put over about the Golden State Warriors, and there's a lot to not like about what you saw from the Cavs. And again, that can all switch. Although to me, you just haven't seen anything that tells you that that's even in in the likelihood here, I mean, you'll just have to see another gear tonight. But the difference defensively between both teams, the Cavs on the opposite side offensively can get no good open looks because every time they swing that ball around, there's a Warrior following the ball and in the face of the defender. It just appears that it's like almost like they're in the Cavaliers' head. They know the few sets that the Cavs like to run offensively, and they are dialed in on it. And again, I speak to, it seems to me like a team, and perhaps this is the disadvantage of having such an easier path to the championship, but it still feels like a team that almost like when those big bad athletic teams run into the old traditional San Antonio Spurs, and then all of a sudden it's like, you think back to the Cavaliers last time they were here. I don't think they looked as bad in games 1 and 2, and that was not this high-priced Cavaliers team. But I don't think they looked as outmatched in the first 2 games against the Spurs when they got swept as these Cavs did. That's, to me, I think, scarier part is that it got worse in game 2. They appeared to mail it in from the beginning, and they definitely mailed it in the second half. And just nothing gives you that feeling that, okay, they're going to turn it around other than, well, LeBron has to take over. And really, I will say this, you can overspeak it all you want. I think that the game 3 for legacies and all that talk, I think it's huge when it comes to LeBron James, because I think that whether you think he should have scored 20, 30, 40, 50, I don't care how many points you think he should have got, he didn't appear. Look at the first 2 games of last year's finals when he was having them Wilt Chamberlain-esque triple-doubles and 38 and 40-point games and really taking over and diving for the ball and tackling guys and getting everybody fired up. That's not the LeBron that you saw in the first 2 games. But more than that, it's the sulking. It's the stuff we used to talk about in the early part of the season and last year, those things that everybody kind of follows by example. That stuff has been there as well, and that's what's very scary going forward, because to me, game 3 is key. Obviously, you have to win, but this is big for LeBron James and his legacy, if you want to use that word, because you've got the run of championship final appearances here, but this is what you came to do. And then to have, I think if you didn't have the performance that you had from him in last year's finals, undermanned and undergunned and all of that, then maybe people wouldn't be as critical. Well, yeah, they still would be. But when you see that and then you see here, there's clearly a template of what he can do, and that felt so missing in games 1 and 2.
It did. And at the same time, it's easy enough to look down the bench and see the lack of contributions from other guys. LeBron can't raise the level of play of all of his teammates by snapping his fingers. He can exhort them. He can, try to whip them up emotionally before game, during game. He can encourage them on the court. But he can't play for him. He can't put the ball in the hoop for him, and he can't pass the ball for him. So, I think there's been a little bit of that, magic, whatever you want to call the way that LeBron elevates the play of his teammates by example and by encouragement. You haven't quite seen it, but at the same time, we just haven't gotten the contributions down the bench. We've had a couple of no-shows from some key guys, and I don't think LeBron has been one of them. Let's put it that way.
Again, I hear you, but I just think there's empty statistics. To me, it just doesn't feel like in any way resembling the inspirational performance in the first 2 games last year. To me, there's something, it wasn't there, and I think it was I think the camera does such a great job in the first 2 games of this series, but every time the Cavs would come down, have a crappy offensive possession, and then Golden State would come right back down and make them pay for it. And with every single shot, LeBron, I was getting some texts because I was on the road at parts of the Sunday. LeBron looks like he's been shot every time they zero in on his face and another shot goes in. Of course it gets frustrating, but that, I don't know, man. To me, it's not points. It's not saying, why didn't LeBron score 50 points? It's that extra level that I just didn't feel. I felt like where he would have normally gone and got it, I think he got frustrated and he got within himself, and I just think that's clearly not why they lost. I mean, like you said, you can go down this entire team of guys that are not contributing. Kevin Love folding within himself on the moment, and again, this is his first time in this stage. We talked about that last week, and how would he react? Now, will he even play, as we've got the concussion issues going on? Not sure if he'll even get in here for Game 3 or not. Same with Kyrie Irving. I mean, that's what did he have, 10 points the other day? And I mean, a quiet 10 points at that. I mean, those are the other guys that are supposed to step up. But at the same time, when he was surrounded by guys that didn't step up last year, that was when he did a little bit more. And so I guess that's what I'm talking about. I'm not trying to put it all on one guy's back, but he kind of already showed you a year ago what he was capable of doing, and so that's when you go, okay, because to me, that's what you do. I know he doesn't like when you say Michael Jordan or this player or that player, but when you're the best, when you call yourself the best, when people call you the greatest of all time, there has to be that moment, that level, that spotlight. This is it. This is what you came home for. You go down fighting, that's one thing. I mean, last year, what did people say? People could say, man, the Cavs might have lost, but doggone it, LeBron James wasn't the reason why. He kept them in it. And I don't think you could say that through the first 2 games of this was the series to play out that way. And again, it's only 2 games. They could come out and be a completely different team at home, which I do expect in Game 3 because they have no choice.
You're right, they don't. We really only saw that LeBron-esque intensity really for one stretch in the series so far. That was the first part of the second half in Game 1 when they came from a double-digit deficit down and they fought back and they took the lead briefly and had the lead, I think, twice. And then we had the incident with Delhi, and it was telling, I thought, that I think it was the end of the third quarter after the Warriors had kind of run back out to 6 or 8 point lead after trailing. And they interviewed Kerr at the break, and he said basically what happened. And Kerr said, well, we lost our intensity for a little bit there. And then they got it right back. They had it right back. And starting the fourth quarter, then the fourth quarter, it was up to a 10, 12, 14 point lead, and they were never headed after that. And Kerr attributed it to, a brief lapse in their intensity, and that coincided with a Cavs brief spurt of intensity that got them back in the game. But I thought it was interesting that Kerr, didn't really give credit to the Cavs for getting back in the game. He said, we lost our intensity. We can't do that. We have to get it back. And apparently that's what he told his team. They came back out. They reasserted themselves, and they ran away with the basketball game. So, the Cavs fans saw, a little spurt there, maybe a 5, 6, 7 minute spurt in the third quarter of kind of the team that we've seen, accustomed to seeing, and then it went away, and tough to grab it back. Fourth quarter of a NBA Finals game when you're on the road in that environment, but. It will be, obviously, to state the obvious, it will be telling tonight to see, what team shows up, and obviously they have to win, and you just got to hope that they can turn it around, and obviously that's what everybody here is banking on.
And
you set this up. What do you think, Jared? I'm just sorry. What would you say about the coaching factor? I mean,
you read my mind. You read my mind.
Ty Lue looked pretty good at 10-0, and then all of a sudden, he's looking. It's not like you can say, well, he's a rookie coach, and Steve Kerr's had all this experience. Well, no, he doesn't. He was a rookie coach last year too. So.
I got to tell you, though.
To me, I always hesitate to venture too far into X's and O's and play basketball strategist as a coach because I'm just not knowledgeable enough to do that. But sure does look like Ty Lue's getting his pocket picked.
He sure is, and you really set that up. I was about to say, since you brought up Steve Kerr, that was exactly where I wanted to go. First off, I I really, he is an amazingly calm coach out there. I'm telling you, I've gained a lot of respect for him, not just against the Cavs so far, but I've watched most of the Warriors games throughout the playoffs, and it doesn't matter what kind of storm they're weathering. He just has that calm. Some people don't like it. It's arrogant, whatever, but he's got that demeanor that's just so awesome in the huddle that you want, where he just tells them, hey, you know, you guys just got to wake up. We're not playing hard. If we do what we do, we'll start this game over. And then they fight back and they get the lead. And he goes, see, what did I tell you? Just keep playing. He's just got a demeanor that I think some of the great coaches have. And I really get impressed watching him. That's why that is the 1A reason above LeBron James, above Kevin Love, above anything else. The biggest difference in this series is the coaching. And I don't care who wants to hear it or not. The only chance the Cavs have in this next part of the series to turn things around is to play the type of basketball they did last year in the finals against Golden State. Slow the game down, play that defensive, grind it out game, minimize the possessions instead of trying. I find it amazing. We've talked about this since they fired David Blatt, that LeBron James and the Cavaliers, and they have fallen in love with the Golden State Warriors brand of basketball. And to me, most times I get it. If you want to go Duke with somebody, some guys like to stand in the middle of the ring and trade blows. I like that kind of fight too. But the Warriors aren't just a three-point shooting team. They are the historically greatest NBA three-point shooting team in history, and quite winning at it as well. They happen to set a record there too. And it baffled me that the Cavs were so insistent when they did the switch to Ty Lue into playing Golden State Warrior basketball against them. And I'm like, that's like going in the ring with a 7-footer and wanting to trade punches with the big guy instead of trying to outrun him. It's foolish. Last year, whether you like David Blatt or not, his strength in the playoffs was adapting after game one, taking away whatever the other team did, grinding it out, and trying to find a way just to get out. He would rather win 87-86 than 118-117. And I think that, getting back to that right now in Game 3, is the only way the Cavaliers can grab a game or two here at the Q and keep this series going. If they try to shoot with Golden State, they will get swept.
Yeah, it's hard to disagree. Whether it's, controlling the pace or whatever, one thing you can just say, they've got to step up the defense. And whether that results in an 87-86 game or a 99-98 game or whatever it results in, you're not going to win a game against these guys if you're up in the 115 to 120 neighborhood.
Right.
So that's just not happening. So, yeah, I'll agree with you, but it's really just a matter of whatever the final score results, there's going to have to be just some more defensive intensity and fighting over screens and under screens or whatever and keeping the score down.
And hey, Dan, I know this is going to make some Cavs fans mad because they don't like him, but are you not impressed with Steve Kerr as a coach and the way he keeps calm in the huddle?
You've got to be. You've got to be. Anytime you've got a guy who's in his, infancy in coaching and he's working on his second ring, you've got to be impressed. And his on-court demeanor is like you say, pretty unflappable. You don't see him getting teed up. You don't see him screaming at officials. You don't see him screaming at players. You've got to admire just the demeanor and the calm that he shows out there, and results. He can get the most out of those guys, and that's what coaching's all about. Is maximizing the talent that you've got and getting guys to play together.
For sure. Speaking of the talent, our buddy Joe Pete here from Everybody Hates Cleveland tweeted, it looks like Love perhaps not cleared to play until Game 4. What would you do with the lineup? He's asking here, perhaps LeBron at the power forward. I mean, would you insert Channing Frye into that spot? Would you? All the talk about Mozgov, and I will tie that into what I said about banging and starting to clank some heads. To me, if I'm switching direction, that's one of the ways I'm going. I know some people say, oh, Mozgov's soft. That's fine. I'd rather have a soft 7-footer down there protecting the rim and allowing me to guard the three-point line religiously and make sure that there's somebody back here at the rim stopping these guys from backdoor cuts and all of that stuff. So what do? Do you bring Tristan in off the bench? Do you put Mozgov in at center, move LeBron to power forward, put Fry in there? I mean, there's a lot of different combinations. What would you do?
Well, I don't know. I guess you'd have to consider the performance you got out of RJ the other day, too.
Yeah, he was the only one that gave you something the other day.
Exactly. He was one of the few guys that stepped it up a little bit, and veteran, and maybe if you're moving LeBron down to 4, you put RJ in there at the 3.
At the 3, yeah. I mean, J.R. Smith's been invisible. I mean, there's another one to talk about.
He has, and so, yeah, I don't know. There's certainly a lot of sentiment around town, and I haven't been in town, to tell you the truth. I'm out of state right now, but to read local media and get a sense for what people are saying. But there's a lot of people that are saying, get Mozgov in there and say, hey, you got 6 fouls, make them count. Take that kind of an approach to the thing.
Now, here's the problem, though, is I do understand the argument, depending on how you switch. If you don't switch right and you end up getting Mozgov switched off on Green, you're in trouble because he's not going to be able to follow him out to the three-point line. But then again, it's not like Kevin Love was doing a great job with that either the other day. So,
Right. You've got problems any way you go, but
Draymond Green is a difference maker to me because his matchup and the position that he plays. A lot of people blew me off about him heading into the series. Oh, he's not all that. And I'm like, you're nuts. So when a guy like that can shoot like that at his size, I mean, those are the type of matchups that are nightmares, not just a good player at his position, but a guy that has a skill set that belongs somewhere else on the court, but he's down there with the big guys.
Yeah, that's true. He's about as versatile a guy as you're going to find.
He's
with
dirty.
The ball in his hands and in the open court and at the three-point line and down low. He's a handful, no doubt.
What's funny here in Cleveland is Draymond Green's a dirty player, but Delly's just a hustling guy, man, And that's how it is everywhere. In Golden State, Delly's a dirty player, and Draymond Green's just a hustling guy, man. That's how it works.
That's true. I do believe, though, and this is not homerism talk.
Oh, he is a dirty player. Draymond's dirty, for sure.
No, I don't believe that Delly really is a dirty player. I think a lot of his stuff is a bad rap. That stems from a couple of games in last year's playoffs, and when he fell into Kyle Korver's knee, and that kind of stuff. There was never any intent on Delly's part to hurt anybody in last year's playoffs. But the 2 incidents got him that reputation, and the refs punished him all year for it this year.
I know they tried to act like that was intentional the other day when he caught dude in the groin. I thought that was funny. I think Draymond Green is a dirty player, and he's got one of those disarming smiles that I think has gotten him through life, where he can kind of make that charming little smile and make a little joke and disarm people, and for some reason he's able to cloak the fact. I think he is much more along the lines of what people say about Delly. So what do you say, man? By the time we talk next week, is this thing in the home stretches? Has Golden State wrapped it up? What do the Cavs do at home the next 2 games?
Boy, I wish I had my crystal ball. It's a little bit cloudy, but I gotta believe they're gonna, come out and get a win tonight by hook or by crook. Obviously, we'll be talking the Browns next Wednesday if they don't get the W tonight. So, I gotta say, let's grab Game 3 and play it by ear from there. I mean, I'm not going to predict a 2-2. How could you watch the first 2 games and predict the series will be the 2-2? So I'm not going to go that far, but I'll predict a win tonight, and we'll take the temperature of the team after that, and maybe we can get the whole mental approach, the whole attitude turned around here with one big win.
I mean, that's how the Cavs have to approach it, too. Jim Pete said the same thing. I'm not ready to talk about the whole series, one game at a time. So there you go. Hey, I don't know how much longer I've got you, Dan, but real quick, June hit and the Indians warmed up with it, man. How about that week-long winning streak? They sweep the Royals and find themselves in first place, even though they stubbed their foot a little bit last night against Seattle. But great run by the Tribe as they continue to put it together while they're still missing, obviously, such a main piece in Brantley and some of the other issues they've dealt with.
Well, yeah, it's been great fun, and of course the Royal Series was fantastic.
Amazing.
I think what we saw, Jerry, I think was the pitching, the starting pitching, that performance in an extended way that we've been anticipating for the last, really since the beginning of last year, when we all felt very good about our starting pitching, and then Kluber kind of stumbled out of the gate, and we had some issues and had some couple of injuries, and never did. We saw flashes of it, but over an extended period, we've seen Bauer sort of really come together.
Yeah,
and we've seen Carrasco, we think, come back successfully. Salazar has been lights out. Kluber has looked like Cy Young Kluber of 2 years ago, even though his record is only 5-6. He's had a couple of bad outings, but his last 4 or 5 starts in a row have been very strong. So we're seeing what we thought we would see even last year and early this year, the rotation really rounding into form. And the thing that's shocking people and shocking me is the Brantley-less offense that's cranking at I think, second or third in the American League right now in runs per game.
Yes.
Something that's really out of the blue. That's something that nobody expected. And we talked a little bit before about how you've got, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys that are all in that, sort of on a 80 to 100 RBI pace for this year. That's something that I don't think any of us expected. No one expected to have a guy on this team with 15 homers in the first week of June either. When I think 21 led the team all last season.
Right.
So yeah, we're getting some offensive production from people we didn't really figure we might get it from, and people thought that this offense would just sputter along without Michael Brantley in there, and but that's been maybe the biggest shocker. Baseball always serves up a lot of things you don't expect, but the runs per game and the offensive production has really been out of the blue.
I absolutely agree, and you brought up that pitching. The last time through the rotation for the guys in the rotation, a 1.6 ERA, 31 Ks in 33 innings, and like you said, Bauer, he had double digits. He had 10 the other day in that victory, and then really the combination of the two, especially as you said, offensively, man, I think that may be one of the biggest surprises here. Although to me, not. And I'm not. Hey, you guys know. Hey, I picked the Indians to win years that they don't, and I'm not the best at this predicting thing. That's for sure. But I had stuck to my guns in spring training when you and I looked forward to this season, that I really thought that the pickups, especially of Davis and Napoli, that everybody was kind of poo-pooing. I said, hey, just looking at what they did last year, I'm not even looking for career highs. If they slide that into what these guys do, I think they filled a couple holes, and it could move the line along, and the cumulative would be better than the individual gains, and that's kind of looking the way it's played out so far.
That's right, and outside of, Napoli's sort of surprising 15 homers, I mean, he's never had less than 18 in the last few years, but you didn't expect him to be sitting in June early June with 15. But you're right, that you haven't had great jump out at your performances out of Rajay Davis or Gomes or any of the other guys. You've just got solid production. Jose Ramirez, maybe the biggest surprise of the year. Lindor obviously contributes every night with glove or bat or both. But you haven't had jump off the page performances from those guys. But cumulatively, like you say, they've been getting the job done. There's been much better situational hitting. I think it's also fair to say this team is vastly improved defensively as a unit over what we saw last year. And so, yeah, it's just a lot of little things adding up to just winning some games. They've got a good record in one-run games. They've got an excellent record, second or third best in baseball in division games, after going something like 11-1 against Detroit and Kansas City out of the gate. And of course, we've had some help from the Chicago White Sox, who we thought they'd come back to the pack a little bit. We didn't think they would fold like a cheap tent, which basically is what they've done. And the Royals, of course, we contributed to their swoon a little bit too, but the rest of the division hasn't been playing that great. Tigers have been the other hot team in the division here lately, and they were 4 or 5 games under 500, so they just kind of crawled back to just over 500 now. So
I think
rarefied air, though, to be up by a couple games. We haven't seen that in Cleveland for a couple of years.
No, not for a while. And I thought that was more impressive even with the Royals sweep, was that they came in hot. What were they on? They were on a 5 or 6 game winning streak.
Yeah, they were on a 4 or 5 game win streak. Yeah.
So that was it. I want to ask you, because we kind of talked about this before. You just mentioned it a minute ago with talking about the offense without Michael Brantley. The big buzz this week is that now the team worried that he could miss a quote-unquote significant amount of time with the reoccurrence here of the injury to the shoulder. And it kind of ties into something I wanted to ask you, because we were talking last week, and you said, hey, I'd really love to see the Indians be preemptive and go out here and make a move. Chris Antonetti, when asked about what they might be able to do, was perhaps a bit more at least optimistic to Indians fans that they would be able to go out and do something. He said there's not going to be limitations to what the team can do if they think they need to go out there and get somebody. I know music to an Indians fan's ears, they'd rather see it done than hear it, but put those two together, what do you think, or what are you hearing about the return of Brantley and perhaps some things the Indians can do here?
Well, first of all, when I heard that buzz, like you say, I tried to source it a little bit, and by that I just mean, doing Twitter searches and things like that. It seemed like it sort of originated with Jeff Passan.
Yeah,
from
Yahoo.
And I couldn't really find anything definitive on it, other than kind of just speculation. And of course, the Tribe front office, I can't remember if it was Antonetti or someone else that kind of immediately threw some cold water on that speculation. There's been no setback in Brantley's rehab, and he's soft tossing, and he's doing simulated swings and during Jabba Chamberlain's simulated game, and that he's on pace to be back. And someone said a few weeks. I hope that was maybe exaggerating a little bit. I hope he's closer than that. And again, long toss doesn't mean a whole lot to me, since it's his right shoulder, not his throwing shoulder that's injured in the first place. So I don't know. I don't think I couldn't find any real basis for the idea that there was now all of a sudden a more pessimistic outlook on Brantley's return. And the other thing is, last time I was on, I was blown on, right field. I was saying, hey, we need to upgrade the roster, and right field and third base are the places where we need to do it. And ever since then, and the Everybody Hates Cleveland guys are right at the forefront of this, is, hey, don't knock the Lonnie, don't knock the Chiz man, because if you look at his metrics, look at his numbers from batting average to defensive stats, Lonnie Chisenhall is doing a good job in right field, and we could do a lot worse than Lonnie Chisenhall in right field right now. So I'm starting to buy in a little bit to that. And make sure that we're not, making a move for move's sake, and because Lonnie's not splashing up big power numbers that we overlook maybe what's been so far kind of a solid contribution out there this year. And
that's a good point. He's hitting nearly 290. He's got about a 360 on base percentage. It's the fact that he's got the couple of home runs, like you said, maybe the lack of the power numbers, but he has definitely contributed, and that's and he had some injury issues there too, as you said. I mean, it's a combination of things looking across. And I was pulling up the stats as you were saying that here, just to go back to what we were saying before, continuing to look like you've got 4, 5, 6 guys on pace to get potentially upwards of 100 RBIs. And I mean, that balance continues to be, I think, what has driven these guys. And I mean, Ramirez, you cannot say enough about the first half of the season that you've gotten from him.
Oh yeah, I'm disappointed every time I look up and I see his name's not in the starting lineup, because I just think you got to have him out there with the speed and the switch hitting and the versatility on defense and everything else. I want to find a place for that guy in my lineup every day. Absolutely. So, Dan, my man, I know that you've got a limited amount of time with us here. Oh, you working on anything? I do have to run, but. I'll just say go Cavs, and we'll revisit. I'm sure I'll be in touch with you off air, and be back with you next week, and back in town next week. I'm not going to be out of state anymore after this week, and so back home, able to spend some more time with you, and we'll get back together Wednesday. You got it, Dan. Go do your thing. We'll catch up next week. Thanks, Jerry.
All right, that's Dan Wismar from Everybody Hates Cleveland. His buddy Jim Pete tweeting at us here. Indians need to go after bullpen help first. The cost is extremely high for an outfielder at the deadline. What say you? I'm going to open the phone lines back up before we close up shop here in this final segment. 216-539-7535, the number to call, 216-539-7535. Want to talk a little Tribe? Hit me up. Facebook, Twitter, email, always open. Facebook.com/thesportsfix. Tweet with us at thesportsfix, CLE, all one word. Email thesportsfix at AOL.com. Again, Facebook.com/thesportsfix. Twitter at thesportsfix, CLE. Email thesportsfix at AOL.com. And once again, the phones are open. 216-539-7535, 216-539-7535. And Indians now, as they continue to roll on here, got some late night Tribe baseball, by the way, which is good, and especially with these big gaps between the NBA playoff games. I love it, though. I've always said that I'm a fan of, I've got craziness going on 24/7 during the day with kids and hitting the gym for a couple hours and working out and keeping up with this, that, and the other thing. I love the idea of late night. Everybody's quiet, the neighborhood's quiet. You can either put on the television, or my preference, put on the TV, but then crank up the old radio broadcast and listen to Hammy and listen to some late night Indians baseball as they roll on through the wee hours. It's one of my favorite ways to spend a beautiful summer evening, and I'm sure many of you guys share that as well. I was going to the phones, and I think I just missed a call here as I hit the button on accident and hung up instead of answered. Phones back open, 216-539-7535, 216-539-7535. Comments continue to come in on the Facebook about the Golden State Warriors and the Cavs. By the way, another prediction: Warriors finish the sweep in Cleveland, says Robert. Draymond Green to be the MVP as the Warriors celebrate in #the land. I hope you're wrong, my friend. I'm going to go back to the phones. Caller, you're next up on the Sports Fix. Hello.
Hello.
There we go. Caller, you're live.
Hey, J-Rocc, how's it going?
Hey, how's it going? What's up? This is my man, Bruce. What's happening, buddy?
Not much. Couple things on my mind this morning. One is Kyrie Irving.
All right, we're talking Cavs. Let's do it.
All right. I don't know. Kyrie's just not a team player. I know I've said that before, but it really showed the first two games. I mean, he just wants to take the ball to the hole and with three people around him. And, it's like, let's watch me dribble for 20 seconds and, take it to the hole and have three guys block me.
Bruce, I think that the greatest part of Kyrie Irving's game is also his greatest weakness, and it's exactly what you said. He is the best dribbler in the NBA, and it's his greatest skill. And his greatest weakness is that he's the best dribbler in the NBA, and he puts his head down and he wants to Harlem Globetrotter around everybody out there, and it takes the team out of their offense. I've often said that I just don't think although in today's NBA people will say he's a modern-day point guard, I disagree. I just think that he's a shooting guard. He's a shooting guard that's playing point guard because at the time the Cavs drafted him, he was the most talented guy there, so they put him at point guard. I just think they'd be so much better off if he was the two guard. But then again, you don't want to take away. It's the conundrum. Do you take away his ability to drive and dribble and do all that and keep the ball out of his hands because he's way less effective? And I think that's the problem that people thought from the get-go of having LeBron James and Kyrie Irving playing side by side, because they both are heavy usage ISO guys, and that's hard fit to get together.
And that leads me to my next point. This isolation basketball is not working.
I hate it. It's like watching a high school team against an NBA team.
It's whatever they're doing. How good does David Blatt look right now?
Thank you.
At least he kept us in the series.
I'm telling you, the other day I was talking to a group of guys, and they look at me and they go, J-Rocc, Sports Fix guy, what's wrong with the Cavs? I said, the biggest problem with the Cavs is making $17 million in Turkey right now. I said, what? Who?
Yeah, exactly.
I said David Blatt.
And
I said, I know people don't want to hear it, but that's the truth,
Of
man.
course not.
That's the truth, is
That's
to me.
one thing about Cleveland fans that really irks me is that you can't tell them the truth because they just can't handle it. You know, they have this thing about, and here's another thing, is that people watch these games because they think, a championship, which obviously everybody does, but they I don't know, they make it sound like they watch, one series a year, and if we don't win a championship, well, they just stink,
Right. Hey, I hate to break it to you, but if they don't win the championship, they're still the second best team in the NBA this season. I mean, they're not exactly, the Cavs that lost 27 in a row a few years ago.
Yogi Berra once
by the
said,
way, Bruce,
my favorite part of being in the World Series, if I didn't win it, at least I came in, I was there.
And I'm not, hey, look, I get it. There's a lot of people that'll give you modern cliches. Well, anything other than a championship is a loser. I don't care about all that. I'm just saying, I was there. I know a lot of people that like to throw the words Cavs and all in and all that out there now. I was at the Q when they lost 27 straight games. I was covering every game of that miserable season, and I can tell you there was a whole lot less fans and there was a whole lot less media there. There wasn't a whole lot less fans. I got to give Cleveland credit. They only dropped a couple thousand a game during the worst days of this franchise, which is why I want the Cavs to win so bad. It's not for LeBron. It's not for Dan Gilbert. It's not for those players on the court. It's for those fans that sat there while they lost 27 games in a row. Those fans that sat there and watched some of the most god-awful basketball ever in the Byron Scott years, man. They're the ones that I hope are in the seats if and when the Cavs win. And by the way, it's funny how quickly things change. Those tickets were obscenely overpriced a couple of days ago, man. And I was talking to my buddy now, his seating section, they were up to they were $300 face value tickets. They were going for $1,000 for Game 3. After the first two games of the series, it was much more like $400 or $500. They had dropped in half on the secondary market. But anyways. But yeah, back to you, Bruce. I'm with you as far as that, and I think that that's really showing itself. I said it with Dan. I think the only chance for the Cavs in this series, and if they do this, they have a chance to salvage this series, is to scrap the whole game plan of trying to keep up with Golden State and turn this into a slugfest and a street fight. And I don't mean dirty play and street fight. I mean you make this a boxing match for 12 rounds where we're struggling to get 100 points. You keep it down like that, and you've got a shot. There's no way this team is going to battle at Golden State's game and win. That's stupid. That's so foolish to me. I don't know why anybody would even try to do that.
Okay, now here's my next point. The three-point shot. We lived by it all year long. Yeah. Okay, we shot the three all year. Now we get into the finals, and they miss a couple, and they go away from it.
Well, you got to be careful, though, when Golden State is running offense as effectively as they are. And I think that the Cavaliers have to keep that in mind. You can't trade 0 for 2 and 3 a couple of times in a row with Golden State, or else you look up and you're quickly down 15 points and trying to figure out what happened. If you miss a couple of threes, you have got to commit to getting 2 points out of every possession, because I'd rather trade 3 for 2 and keep somewhat in the game than go on that 12, 15-point Golden State run that they do to every team that puts the game away. Just like the Cavs when they fought all the way back in Game 1. Golden State took a break and came back out there, made a couple stops, and then sunk their shots on the other end. Cavs looked up, and they were right back down double digits.
Okay, I agree. Now, on that point, they miss a shot, and there's 5 Golden State people under the basket and not one Cav in sight.
Thank you. How is that happening? How are there 4 and 5
no
white
idea.
jerseys? Yeah, I agree.
You know, I'm a big note taker. You know, when I watch games, I take notes on everything.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that just, drove me out of my mind is, like, where's the Cavs players? They're running back down to the other end trying to get ready for defense.
That was right on the top of my list after games 1 and 2. I had notes, and it was white jerseys everywhere on the boards. You would literally watch a shot go up, and if you looked under the rim, you'd see 3 and 4 white jerseys and maybe one Cavs player down there.
And that was only because he was backing up.
It's amazing.
You know, he was backing out of the camera view. Okay, let me really switch gears and let me go to the Monsters real quick.
Before you switch, how do you see the next stage of this series playing out?
Well, obviously we win tonight. I mean, that's a must.
A must.
Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a must. They have to win tonight. But I don't see it going past 6. I really don't think the Cavs have enough bench to compete. And the lack of defense is really showing. I mean, when Lou was hired, he was the defensive coach.
I know.
And they played very little defense in the first 2 games.
I agree. That to me was the most shocking thing. Was I go back to it looked like one very skilled, talented team playing the game of basketball, and another team that was just a bunch of athletes that were used to going out there and outrunning the other guy, and then all of a sudden they play that team that's got their stuff together, and they're going, wow, how does this keep happening? And that's honestly what I felt like watching them. I go back to what I said to Dan. I could not believe, especially in game 1, because it was the first matchup there, and I'm watching them just continue to get open layups and guys just lose their man on defense, and I was like, holy cow, this is like high school against pros.
When Cavs players were running into each other trying to get...
It was like high school guys against a professional team at certain points in the game, with the exception of the third quarter of game 1 when they came out focused. And that, I go back to LeBron. He had that look. He grabbed a couple of big rebounds. He dove on the floor for a ball. He pushed mentally that team by what he was doing physically, and that run was the only run that it appeared that the Cavs have even been competitive in this whole series.
Now, I don't know why, but I keep watching for the 07 LeBron to step up against Detroit and, just single-handedly take over, And
I think that's what you're going to get in Game 3. I think if they lose, he's going down swinging, and that doesn't mean that he can do it by himself. He's going to need... Kyrie Irving needs a 30-point game. Kyrie Irving needs to come out and play one of those games where you go, that's why Kyrie Irving is on this team. And if he doesn't, they're in trouble because officially, no Kevin Love, by the way. Word comes out within the last segment of this show here. Kevin Love, at the earliest, will be able to perhaps play in Game 4, but he will not be in Game 3. So the Cavs are going to have to switch lineups, and it puts even more onus on Kyrie Irving to step up and help LeBron out.
Yeah, somebody else like Channing Frye or somebody has to step up in this game. I mean,
I kind of like Dan's idea. Maybe
Jefferson.
Maybe Jefferson. He might be that calming influence out there,
And he's everywhere. I mean, everywhere you look, he's like running all over the floor. He's like the only one moving the whole game.
Hey, he came here for something he's never done before, doggone it. He's trying to make it happen.
Exactly, and he wants to do it, come on, guys, help me, It's like, the thing that gets me is like I was saying about Kyrie dribbling. If you notice, when he dribbles, there's 4 guys standing there watching him.
Oh, yeah, and that's part of the problem
it's like
yeah.
They know he's going to go to the hole. Everybody in the arena knows he's going to the hole. And yet our guys are just standing there saying, no, let him go, and we'll go back down and play defense.
I hate ISO ball. I hate the Cavs ISO ball. To me, that's just the worst, most rudimentary offense in the world, and I hate to watch the Cavs do it, and they've got 2 guys who do it all the time, and I get it. And by the way, to me, if that's the way we're playing, if I've got to pick one guy, I'd rather it be LeBron because he's bigger and stronger and he's going to get more free throws and he's going to get to the line more. Unless Kyrie's going to commit to driving to the lane, consistently on every play, because I also think that's one of the things the Cavs need to do. They need to force more fouls. They've got to drive to the line. They've got to get Golden State in foul trouble. Getting the team in the bonus can get you more opportunities to slow these games down and to get more free points at the line. I think those are all the things the Cavs have to do.
Which brings me to my next point. I mean, didn't we play run and gun? You know? And now all of a sudden we're walking the ball up the floor.
Well, they need to walk it up more because it's not walked up enough because they're still giving up too many points.
Right.
But I'm with you.
It's
they've
like
got to
we've
figure
completely switched.
Go ahead.
The East is a lot weaker than the West.
Clearly.
Okay? I mean,
clearly.
You know, I mean, it's like we blew through the East, and then we get to a Western Division team, and it's like we forgot how to play.
Hey, I'm with you.
You know, it's not like, we're dancing with the one that brung you, you know? I mean, it's not happening.
Again, all of these guys, to a man, have to look at themselves and say, hey, man, what can I do better? And then go out there and do it. I think they win tonight. I can't say they win both games here in Cleveland, and if they don't have a chance in this series because then they would have to win. They'd have to win 2 in Oakland and not just 1. But it starts
Couldn't agree
tonight.
with you more.
I will say this. I do believe if they lose Game 3, they will get swept. I think that they will not. They won't even win a game. If they lose Game 3, when you look at how quick they gave up in Game 2, I think it's clear that if they lose Game 3, you're not going to get a winning effort in Game 4. So Game 3 is the key.
They gave up so fast in that second game that I thought J.R. Smith showed up on a milk carton the next morning.
I cannot believe how quick because I was on the road, so I had to watch the game afterwards, but I had already known what happened. I was keeping up with it during the game, and I just watched it and said, my God, why did these guys even bother showing up today? This is unreal.
Well,
it's the finals.
You're totally a
$300 million payroll or whatever, and we're not even showing up for Game 2. It's all good. It's in the past. Game 3 is here. Time to kick some ass at the Q. All right, speaking of kicking ass at the Q, you wanted to mention the Monsters?
Yes, I did. I watched my first hockey game, not feeling like a bandwagon hopper here, or anything, but...
welcome to the Monsters, Bruce.
Well, hang on a second. Now, I was chatting with Charles Morgan on Facebook, and he said, hey, the Monsters are coming on. And I happened to look, and, it's like 3 hours before the Indians play, so I figured I'd give it a shot. And it turned out to be one of the best games I ever watched, I mean, it was like, I couldn't have enjoyed it more, I was actually getting excited sitting here watching, the Monsters play.
I tell people all the time, the Monsters are a good time. It's a good time live. It's a fun atmosphere, and they're great. There's always all kinds of stuff going on. My kids love going. Monsters are fun, man.
I was going to say, my friends, they're season ticket holders, and they offer me tickets all the time. I said, nah, I'm not really into hockey, Like, man, now I wish I would have went,
There you go. Monsters have a new fan in Bruce. Hey, Bruce, before I let you go, I know you got something to say about your Indians, baby. Hot week for them.
Hey, I'm in first place. I can't complain a bit, It's
That's right.
We were 3 games behind a couple weeks ago or last week, and this week we're 2.5 ahead. So
that's right.
I really have no complaints.
When is the last time, Bruce, that the Indians were 2.5 games ahead? Like Dan and I were just kind of mentioning that point. It's one thing to say, hey, they're back in first place, but it's been a while since they've had a multi-game lead in first place.
Oh, we won 6 in a row. That was the first time since September of 2013 when we made the wild card.
At the end of the season. That's what that run at the end of the season.
We won 10 in a row. One thing that does bother me, Mike Napoli.
Striking
He's got 83 strikeouts.
Yeah. I knew you were going to say that. Striking out a ton. Yeah.
That just bothers me.
I'll take that if I get the rest of the production we're getting from him. I mean, he's having a great season even with that and leading. I think he leads the AL in strikeouts, right?
He sure does, yeah. 83.
And that stinks. But I mean, he's got 14. It's bringing his average down is what it's doing. It's why he's hitting 235 or whatnot, because otherwise his power numbers are great. He's got 14. Again, he's got 2/3 as many home runs already as the Indians' best home run hitter did last year, and he's already got 42 RBIs. I think what was the leader last year was in the 80s or so. So from that standpoint, definitely, I guess I would trade one for the other if I had to.
Well, I guess that's the theory that if you swing as hard as you can on every pitch, just in case you hit it,
you're going to hit some. Yes, sir, man.
So, by the way, Ramirez is the number 3 in the league in hitting with runners in scoring position. So that leads me back to my theory that the batting average doesn't really mean that much if you can hit with men in scoring position, and he has both.
Yeah. For sure. Absolutely, yeah.
So, I'd take, your average with runners in scoring position over a regular batting average anytime. But he's doing it all. And last night, I hope I've seen the last of Anderson for the year. I mean, it wasn't his fault. He was out of the inning on that ground ball to Lindor.
Oh, yeah.
And Lindor hesitated throwing it to second because Kipnis was he was playing closer to first and didn't think he had time to get there. So he went to throw it to first and he threw it too late. And that opened the floodgates because if you give good teams 4 outs in an inning, they're going to bat all night. And that's pretty much what happened. But, a rare mental mistake by Lindor I can live with. It's only one game. Let's put it behind us, like you said, and let's move on to the next one. But Anderson, I mean, from the first inning on, he was, he gave up the 2 runs, the 2-run homer, and then he settled down, and then he got right back into trouble again. Whatever he was doing in the first inning, he went right back to it.
Yeah, 4th inning was his downfall there. And I mean, clearly there's issues. He's now 1-4. His ERA is about 7.5. I mean, definitely not what people thought, especially looking at what he had done and the potential here coming into the season. But that was a spot deal. They wanted to give Salazar he had shoulder fatigue, give him a skip in the rotation, so he won't pitch again until Sunday?
Saturday. He'll pitch Saturday against the Angels.
I'll see the rotation that I got from the Tribe has Bauer on Saturday and then Salazar on Sunday.
Let me see.
Yeah,
I got
the next 5. They've got Carrasco tonight and then Tomlin, and then when they hit the Angels, it's Kluber, then Bauer, then Salazar.
Okay, you may be right then. I don't have the updated
another run through the
version.
rotation like they had on this last one, and it should be a good wrap up to the road trip here for sure. Because that last time around, the rotation was really dialed in. Did I lose you, Bruce?
Okay.
All right.
No. I was checking my my email here to see what the Indians.
Anything else, my friend? Before we go.
No, that's about it. No word on Jan Gomes yet. He took a foul ball off the groin last night.
Testicular contusion just sounds like it's a very painful
It sounds
injury.
painful, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Every man that hears that gets cold chill just on the word testicular contusion,
I think it was the high voice that got him out of the game, though. It's like, he looked like he couldn't catch his breath at first, and then he just kind of gave up.
Yeah.
So
Cavaliers look like you just described the Cavs, too. They look like they couldn't catch their breath and gave up after the first 2. Hopefully they can get their testicular contusion fixed in time for Game 3, because they took a kick in the nads for sure out on the West Coast.
And I couldn't agree with Dan more that shot to the groin by Deli turned the series around, or at least, so far.
Fired them up, that's for sure.
It fired them up. Yeah.
Such an accident. I mean, he clearly was just swiping for the ball, man. I mean, that wasn't even close. Wasn't even close to me.
And I don't know. It's just, I don't know how we got talking about a groin here, but, it seems to fit every sport, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Bruce.
So, I will let you go, J-Rocc, and Thanks for the call.
Are the Cavs still playing ball when we come back?
Yeah. Only because of scheduling.
All right, Bruce. Good call, my friend.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, I didn't mean to hang up on you, Bruce. Thank you for the call. Thanks to each of you guys that called in here today throughout the show. Remember, you can keep calling all week long as you hear the show on digital delay, 216-539-7535, 216-539-7535. This Saturday, come on out to the Saga Club in Erie, Pennsylvania. I'll be there doing the J-Rocc thing and some pro wrestling. Look forward to seeing some of you guys there. I've got a lot of things going on here. Got some irons in the fire, and hopefully we'll be able to share some of that stuff with you guys soon. A lot of good stuff coming down, though. This summer is going to be like the summer of George. This is the summer of J-Rocc Daddy as far as my wrestling. And hopefully it's the summer for Cleveland, too. Cavs going to turn it around here. Hopefully starts tonight at the Q. Monsters this weekend going to wrap it up and bring the Calder Cup back to Lake Erie. Well, bring it here for the first time. Bring a championship back to the shores of Lake Erie for the first time in 52 years. Go Monsters. Feel like a monster. Go Cavaliers and go Tribe. It's going to be fun. Late night Tribe most of the next 5 days, I think, with the exception of Sunday. So I'm going to have some fun with that. I hope to get to see some of you guys this Saturday night if you venture out to Erie, Pennsylvania. If not, catch up with me on social media. Jerry Myers is my personal account. Look for J-Rocc. Look for The Sports Fix on Facebook, or you can tweet with us at The Sports Fix CLE, or me personally at J-Rocc Daddy, all one word, on Twitter. Hopefully I'll see some of you Saturday night at the Saga Club. If not, we'll be back here next week. Same bat time, same bat channel, live across the Sports Fix Radio Network. We love you, Cleveland and beyond. Go Cavs, go Monsters, go Tribe, go Browns, go Cleveland. We'll see you next week, live, right here on the Sports Fix.
Don't sleep out here in Cleveland, Cleveland, Cleveland. You know that I'm long nights, cold weather, it ain't nothing pretty. So much hate up in this itty bitty city. If you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. Put your hands up in the air, everybody say yeah, yeah.